Hi, my name's Joe and I sell outboard parts. Today we're going to be discussing how to change the impeller on this here 1966 Chrysler 45 horsepower. So what you'll need for this, after you take it out of the motor, or take the lower unit off, is a ball peen hammer, 3/8 socket, and a punch. So the first thing I do is, with any lower unit part, is put the punch on top of here, give it a whack. Do that to each one of the nuts. That just helps to free them up. Okay, now I've drained everything out of it. This is the guy you can just move aside like that. So we'll take this off here. If it feels too hard to get off, you might have to employ some heat or some lubricant to it. Alright, now I've removed the screws. So I'll just wiggle this guy and pull him up like this. Right off. And then in here we have the impeller. And it's wedged in there. You just pull it out. You'll see this guy here. All of his fins are bent. And they're pretty soft. So it might pump water. So next I'll inspect this area in here. And then pull this pin out here. Take this guy off here. Check it out under there. See if there's, sometimes you can get corrosion in here or debris or anything like that. So you want to clean that out real good. But this is already pretty clean. This is probably a freshwater motor. And put this guy back on. And if you forget which way it goes, you'll see one side there's no marks on it. And that goes on the inside. On the other side you can see where the impeller was brushing against it. So that way you make sure you get it on the right way. And of course it's curved on one side and square on the other. So that should also help you out. So I'll stick this guy back in here so I don't lose him. And then I will get a new impeller for this. Okay, we are back to working on our 1966 with the correct impeller here. One thing that's important to remember when you're working on these is that the shape of the impeller, not the shape, the number of things on it can change from time to time as they come up with better designs. You just got to make sure it's the right size. So here we are again. Take our screws off. Pull this guy off. So this one here looks different because he's got a lot more pins on him. But this guy here, the same size and the same thickness. That's what's important, is the thickness. Very important. So we'll take this guy. Then we'll take this guy here and slide him on. Make sure that there's an opening on one side but not the other, so you want the opening down. And wiggle around, make sure it seats on that pin real nicely. Everything else lined up very well there. Okay, and then I always bring an extra engine along, just in case there's trouble. So next thing you want to inspect is inside this housing here. And you want to check and make sure there's no pitting on the inside of this. If there's a lot of pitting in here, it's just going to end up chewing this guy up. But this is nice and clean in here, so also you make sure there's no debris in here. But again, this is nice and clean. It's a freshwater motor. That's one of the things about the freshwater motors is they don't just look better on the outside, they look better on the inside too. All that corrosion and stuff just wears out the pieces. So if you have the choice, pay twice as much for freshwater stuff. I just try not to buy saltwater stuff altogether. So I'm going to put a little more oil in here. It's not super critical what kind of oil you use because it's gonna come off after you run it for 5 minutes. But it's good for assembly. So now here's the important part. This is like the most important thing right here. Is when you put this on. The most important part when you put this on is to turn the drive shaft clockwise if you're looking down at it like this. So you start turning that drive shaft clockwise, and then you just start putting some pressure on this guy here, And boom. Line it all up. You're good to go. Let's put your screws back on. Tighten them up. Put it back on. Put a little grease up here before you put it back on too. It's nice to grease this, and grease your propeller shaft too. You want to grease that guy up real good too, because when they're dry in there, sometimes they just become one with the propeller, and it's not that much fun to take them apart. Sometimes you can't. So remember, if you need outboard parts, let me know. If you want to buy your new impellers, I'm sure somewhere around here you'll be able to find a link to click on boats.net. Click that link, get your new impeller, and get started today. Thank you, and have a great day.